Hello, everyone. Tracy here, your resident business rebel, and you're listening to Digital Business Your Way podcast, the show that lets true stories and insider secrets of online entrepreneur life unfold. Our business world is growing, and as an online business coach and digital product creator, I believe you didn't become an entrepreneur to grin and bear your way through business. So I'll be your guide as we drop in on coaching calls, have intimate sit downs with online personalities you love, and discuss ideas, opportunities, and strategies circulating our online world. So pop in your earbuds, tap follow, and join me as I demystify this thing called business.
It's so easy now, like with all the different tools and platforms to like remove us almost completely out of it. If you're a coach and you're like, how can I automate my entire coaching program? It's like, you're not actually doing any coaching, I don't think anyways. Like, get bogged down into like, oh, I'm going to have this tool and that tool. And,
Yes.
and they get so stuck in like figuring out all the tech or trying to figure out what to do next that they don't actually do the thing. And so they end up sitting on all the intellectual property that they have in their brains, their vision, their ideas, like stuff that can actually make an impact, that they're like over here, like spinning their wheels in, the tech land, and then nothing's happening to actually like grow the business, bring in new leads.
Welcome in, everyone. Today, I'm joined by the brilliant Lacey Baxter, a funnel builder, marketing tech expert, and business strategist who knows how to take the guesswork and stress out of launching. You might know her as the host of Funnel Building Strategies for Online Business Owners podcast, but around here, she's also known as someone who's deeply grounded in helping people simplify and actually get their stuff out into the world. Plus, she's a friend of mine and of the show. So Lacey doesn't just talk strategy, she builds systems that support you so you can actually follow through and launch what you've been dreaming about, yeah? So whether that's going live, building a funnel, or just figuring out where your audience even is these days, she's all about helping you create something that's not only smart and strategic, but sustainable for you. In this episode, we're diving into what stops people from moving from idea to execution, especially when it comes to launching. We're talking about the very real tension between following best practices and doing what actually works for you, with that pressure to pick a camp, like live launching versus evergreen, right? And while your social media burnout might just be a sign to try something different. So if you've ever built something incredible, but then stalled right before sharing it, if you've been stuck spinning in tech land instead of connecting with real people, or if you ever thought, maybe I just need to do it like them to succeed, well, this is your reminder that you really don't. Let's talk about what you do need, how to decide what's worth your time, and why imperfect action beats perfect tech every time. Let's get into it. Welcome back. And thank you, Lacey, so much for being here. Like you and I, we are in a peer mastermind together. And I love this because we bonded over all things launching. And, launching is something that I enjoy. And it's something that I also find kind of mystifies people because they get this sort of, not so much fear, but a lot is worked up about it, right? And launching is really just another word for promotion. It's just things that we're putting in place in order to get people excited to buy our stuff, you know?
Yes.
It's really just kind of that simple of a concept, and then it's all of those little pieces that we put into place. And I think it's all those little pieces is where people can get kind of really stuck in. So is there something about it that kind of catches you? Like a lot of people are kind of, pro live launch or anti live launch or pro evergreen or never evergreen, or, they tend to like put stakes in camps, and it's like, well, hang on, why can't we just have a bit of everything?
Oh, I love that you said that because, well, first when I first got started, I was taught that like live launching is what you must do and everyone must do it. It must be
Right?
number of days long. It
Oh my
must
gosh.
include, open cart on day like 3, close cart on day 10, like just really, really regiment it.
Yeah.
And what that is that's their strategy. That's their plan that worked for them. which is great. They're trying to share something, but we have to be able to be flexible. We have to be able to customize it. Like I call myself sometimes a remixer, which is like I've said launch remix, all these different buzzwords, because of course that's another thing. It's like you got to have this buzzy word. And
Exactly,
so
right.
I've come up with all the different buzzy words to try to explain what I do. But really, I love looking to see what works, but then being able to take out pieces that feel comfortable, that feel doable, realizing that what you might be seeing out there are things that take massive teams,
Yeah. Yep.
things that have like huge back ends, like money going into ads. Like, so just even understanding like what you're seeing, what it takes, and what someone's telling you. So then you can make informed decisions. You can decide what you want to try, and really tailor the launch experience to you. So I don't like to lean into one or the other. I think they all have their place. Some might have better results than others, or people will tell you they have better results. But if you're not a fan of like live launching and you go and do live launching and people can tell you're not a fan of it and you're not like showing up
Yeah.
as an authority, then that's not going to work for you. And you might convert better doing something like evergreen or pre-recorded or an email blast or an intimate type of event. So that's kind of I really went on a ramble there, but like
No, not at all.
that's what I think about it all.
But yes, and
And
it's true, right? It's where you can put your energy behind it, and people like we get this comfort by hearing from people who've done it more often than we have. And that's kind of like outsourcing our brain for a little bit and outsourcing our authority by hearing from these people that we're paying money to learn from, right? But it's understanding that they came up with these ways to do it by practicing. That's why they're called best practices. They had to go through trial and error. Yeah. And then
mhm.
it's a matter of making sure that your audience is coming along with you. So if your audience isn't their audience, and if your offer isn't their offer, then there's likely not going to be a fit. Right. So
Mhm.
it's like that's that very first test. It's like, well, am I doing the exact same thing they are to the exact same kind of people? Oh, okay. Maybe a little bit, maybe not at all. Well, then I can look at what they're doing, but at what point, like, where do I feel more excitement? Where do my people tend to be more engaged? And let me realize that that's okay to go ahead and have that flexibility and kind of play around there. Right. And
Exactly.
understanding that like you're not doing it wrong if you're not doing it exactly like somebody told you to. It's not
Yes.
second grade. Like like you're not going to get an
No.
F for not following a rule. And it's there's a great sense of bravery and almost, I don't know, craziness to going ahead and doing it. But I mean that's why we're out here trying our own business, right? And trying
Yep.
our hand at all of this stuff.
Yeah, being able to adapt, pivot, and then when you do the thing and just like kind of ripping off that band-aid, doing
Yeah.
the thing, getting it done, and then collecting valuable data and insights. Like I love doing that side of thing too. So to go with that, testing and experimenting.
Yes.
There's one thing to test and experiment, but then there's also like some sort of analysis to do to be like, did that actually work? Did it go well? Like where could it have gone better? Like there's not really any failed launches, I'll say. There's
Mhm.
like data that can be collected to see, okay, what were the open rates like? What were the show up rates like? If nobody purchased, like where are they sitting now? Is there like something we can do to collect data from the people that did show up and say like, can you give me some feedback? So just even being willing to like open yourself to explore, the data that comes from whatever it is you just did. And kind of to lean into your point too about, are you doing it exactly like them? Was it designed for their audience? Like I've had clients come to me before and they're like, yeah, I think I need to have a podcast. Like, can you help me like, launch what I need to have for a podcast? I'm like, knowing your audience, like, do they even listen to podcasts? And they're like, no, I don't think they do. And I'm like, so why are we putting them on a podcast or like people, so just even understanding like where the heck do your people like hang out?
Yeah.
and what content did they digest, like how did they digest it, and then that's going to tell you if you need to even be this omnipresent like kind of individual. And I'm not like the omnipresent type of individual. I'm like, I'm going to figure out like the core places and focus on those. So yeah.
Definitely. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I love that, because there's that balance there, right? With being where we want to be and doing things how we want to do in our business, and then making sure that the humans that we want to hang out with know how to find us. Right.
Yeah.
And like if we did want to experiment with a podcast because we just have this absolute love for it, or a YouTube channel, or I don't even know, TikTok or anything else that's around, right? I was like, there's so many platforms that have come and gone. that
Oh my God.
it's
Yes.
yeah, and it's like, oh, let's announce it. Let's launch it, right? Let's see how much of our audience wants to try. And some of them will come with you and they'll hang out with you and they'll do something fun just to support you. But over large, like, their behavior isn't going to rapidly change. So it's also setting those expectations of, am I trying to bring my existing people with me, or am I trying these other platforms? Am I looking at these other things in order to maybe catch new eyeballs? In order to
Yes.
expand my reach into other places. So I'm not so much looking at bringing everybody else, but I'm trying to see who else is out there that wants to hear this same thing. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's looking at those kind of things. And all of that goes into, whenever you're promoting something new, whenever you're launching something new, and looking at this at, what am I really wanting from this? What am I requiring this to do for me,
Mm.
versus what am I willing to put in effort, in time, in money, in just heart and soul. It's like all of the pieces that go into it. And it's like, well, if I can't do what's required, then where can I kind of tailor back on those expectations? Right. Because we
Mm-hmm.
control that. You don't have to have a six-figure launch of something and then feel like you failed. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
want 100 people in a program that you've never even launched before, and two people bought from it and feel like, it was horrible. It's okay to have feelings, but it's also like, well, wait, did you set yourself up with some sort of like mental emotional hype and not match it with the effort that's required, or with that balance there? Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it totally does. Because when I first started, I actually was still working in corporate, and well, I was on mat leave. So, I mean, have being on mat leave is like a full-time job in
Yeah,
itself.
right.
So like the time to spend, the effort was like not there. So instead of spending the time in areas that I was like, I can't like grow a following on social media. I can't be posting. I can't do what's required or what they're
Yeah.
telling me is required on social media. And it just, and still even to this day, I'm like, I don't know. I tried this, challenge, do a reel a day. I'm like, I just can't get into it. Like I do
Yeah.
it and then I'm like, and I fell off the wagon again. And so instead for me, instead of spending this time doing something that feels, uncomfortable, or like I just can't devote the time to it, I will actually decide to invest. So even when I was on mat leave, I knew I had to grow an audience, and I decided to personally run ads. Like
Yeah.
that was my answer. I was like, I can't grow the following. I can't ask people to join my email list. I can't, show up on all these groups doing these different things because I was busy, and I didn't have that time, and I didn't actually have that desire to do that big side of it.
Hmm.
So I started running ads, and I was like, okay, I can put money into this and have it do it for me. And I've removed myself a little bit from the equation. I'm in the equation enough where I feel comfortable, and I like setting it up. I like managing it. I like, checking in on it. But in terms of like the time, I would rather invest the money. And that's kind of like decisions that people have to make, is if they want to put in that effort, or they want to like get the results that they're saying, then it's either like, do you have the time to put in, do you have the effort to put in, do you have the energy, and then how do we make sure that we're being realistic in whatever goals we're setting for ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
And really leaning into that like social media side of things. Like
Hmm.
I don't mind social media. I like having like an online presence so that people can see, okay, she's still in business, like she's got a cover photo. It's not out of date. There's a website I can go to. But really the primary goal of my social media for myself, and everyone has to determine what their goal is, to get people like to see that I have an online presence and then take a journey to likely get on my email list is the ultimate goal for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and a big part of that is realizing that you have choice, right? It's like there's so many different tactics to put in place for all of these strategies for getting an audience because you have choice to fit what works for you, to fit with how you are personally, to fit with the kind of business that you want, the kind of time you have, the kind of money you have, the kind of team that you do or do not want to build or invest in, and the kind of time in the sense of longevity, right? Because we want to build long-term sustainable businesses, not like flash in the pan quick burning type situations. So it's like, what do I need to do to look at the long term and think, long game, in order to make sure that I'm not draining myself now or building something that I'm going to look back in just a month, let alone in 6 months or a year, and go, what on earth is going on? Or I don't even want to do this anymore. Right. And we don't know everything all the time. There's nothing wrong with trying it out and looking and changing our minds. But it's having that kind of awareness and having that constant like reflection, right? And looking at it. And that really goes into every single piece of promotion that we're doing. From, do we want to do ads? Do we want to do a social media? What are we doing to build an audience? And then how are we asking our audience to join us on email? Are we wanting to do some sort of live event, or are we wanting to do an email only launch, or are we wanting to bring people in an in-person? Now, we can do those now, right? So it's like, what are the different levers, what are the different mechanics that we wanted to put into place in order to get more connection and more comfort with the people that we want to work with, and then invite them into our next containers, right? And
Yes.
there's so many different things that we can do that can feel a little overwhelming. Like it can feel exciting, and then also like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. What do I do? So let me just look around and pick what someone else has done and copy and paste it, right? And
Yeah.
that's where we have to go, okay, I like what they're doing, but, right? Let me check
Mm-hmm.
in with myself and say, is this really what I want to build? Is this really what I do? Can I actually put this into place?
Yep, exactly. And even looking at, what someone else is doing at face value, like we don't actually know what's happening behind the scenes of their business unless like we're
Yeah.
actually, working behind the scenes of their business. Like I've been lucky enough to be behind the scenes where I can see, okay, that was a really profitable launch. And I did the
Yeah.
strategies that, we're putting into place are working. Whereas like you can watch a launch happen, but you might not have any idea if that was actually profitable or not, or if something worked. And then you're going and trying to, apply that to your business without having that information. Yeah, I just find it so much better to like figure out, yeah, what feels good, what feels comfortable, and try to put like a little bit more, human back into it.
Hmm.
It's so easy now, like with all the different tools and platforms to like remove us almost completely out of it. And I heard other people talking about this before. This isn't new. This isn't, rocket science. Like Lacey came up with something. uh, I'm not taking credit for this, but like if you're a coach and you're like, how can I automate my entire coaching program? It's like, you're not actually doing any coaching, I don't think, anyways. Like, if I'm getting coached, I probably expect some sort of like, coaching
Yeah.
aspect to happen, especially you as the offer queen are probably like, yeah, if you're a coach, like, we need to put some coaching into your program.
Right? I'm like, where's the part where people are learning and growing with you?
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, I don't know. It's just there's so much out there right now that you can just like get bogged down into like, oh, I'm gonna have this tool and that tool, and
Yes.
I'm gonna, and they get so stuck in like figuring out all the tech or trying to figure out what to do next that they don't actually do the thing. And
Mhm.
so they end up sitting on all the intellectual property that they have in their brains, their vision, their ideas, like stuff that can actually make an impact, that
Mhm.
they're like over here like spinning their wheels in the tech land, and then nothing's happening to actually like grow the business, bring in new leads, like that just becomes stale or like stop. So yeah, it's I like to see people take action and actually like moves in the business versus like, okay, we're sitting on a course that you had, and this is actually one of my clients, she wouldn't care, but we're sitting on a course that you had done for a year and it hasn't been launched, and you want to start from scratch and build something else. I'm like, no, no,
Right.
no. We're gonna
Yeah.
like we need to launch the, and when we talked about it, she's like, yeah, that really is my passion and that is the thing. She's like, I don't know why I get here, like I get almost there and I just can't get across that finish line, and then I start something new, and I'm like,
Yep.
okay, well, we're gonna like fix that. And she ended up launching it, she sold it out, and we're working on a new launch again here, like very, very soon. But yeah, it's like, it's just crazy to me that that happens. Like, I can't help myself, but when I have something, I'm like, I want to get this out to the world. Like, I try to get it out there in the fastest like way possible, because I'm like, I really think this can help people. This is going to get people results. It's going to, create transformations. Like, we need to launch this thing.
Yeah.
And I imagine like with you creating offers, like I love what you do, because creating the offer that like does those things is one thing. And then obviously like you have to put it out there. So I'm sure that you have so many offers that you're like, I just created a brilliant offer for a client and I know they haven't launched it yet. That would frustrate me.
Well, it's phase one, phase two, right? And
Yeah.
there's different parts to it, because sometimes we can get so into phase one that we almost get tired of it, because it's old now, it's different now, right?
Mm,
And so then it's like, okay, what's the next dopamine hit? What's the next thing that gets me excited? And that typically comes down to like the type of personality, the people who are just constantly creating, thinking of something new. And so they're the best at creation, but not execution. Yeah.
mm,
Then you have the other kind who are fantastic at the creation, but then they have that self-doubt and that part of like, well, I think it's great, but well, okay, no, now I've sat with it so long, maybe somebody else won't think it's so good. And I need external validation in order to feel like it's going to, but how do I get that? And then what do I do? And then I'm going to sit on it forever. And then I'll just move on. Okay. Well, somebody just asked me to do this, so I'll just do this instead. Right. And
mm-hmm.
there's other versions too, but those tend to be like the most common, the most extreme of the people who just kind of like, oh, I just thought of this. All right, great, let's do that. Oh, I just thought of this other. Okay, great, let's do that.
Oh,
Right. And
yes.
then
Yes.
followed by the, oh, I think this is fantastic. Well, maybe only I do. Oh, okay, cool. I'll do this one thing that someone just asked me to do that I can execute, and great, they want to pay me for it. Cool, I'll do that. And then this other thing that I made is just going to kind of sit here, and maybe one day if somebody asks for it, I'll sell it, but if not, I'm not sure. So it just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like collects dust, right? And then all the humans in between those two. And that's typically what I see with what keeps people moving into that phase two, and moving
Yeah.
into your side of things, where they're ready, where they're like, oh, let's get through the tech part, let's get through all of these hurdles that are keeping me from actually like promoting this thing and getting it out into the world, and even finding out who actually wants it, and learning those lessons and getting that data back and seeing, how to even optimize it, and taking it from a live launch to an evergreen, or from a private launch that's email and invite only into something that,
Mm-hmm.
we're running ads for, or is grand, and all the other options that people have.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's so many places that people can get like feel like they're stuck or get tripped up
Yeah.
in that like execution side, right down to like, if I think about it like from a starting point, like getting a domain. Like I had people like just spend hours on like figuring out, what the heck is my domain going to be? And then actually when they get it, it's like, well, okay, now what do I do with it? Oh, I need a business email. Like, how do I make sure that the business email comes from this domain? Do I say hello at domain.com? Do I put my name at hello.com? Like,
Yes to both of
it's
those people. Yes to both of those.
there's a there's so many like details, and I find like if we're the creative type of entrepreneurs or like the not so tech savvy entrepreneurs, like maybe we like to I've had clients that are like, I just want to skip the details, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's skip the details type of thing and have someone else like get into the details for you, tell you exactly what to do. Like that, I think, is what helps move that needle, because there's so many great offers out there, and like I just love to see them come to fruition. Like, yeah, from the domain, the emails, getting the email marketing set up, the automations, the sales pages, like even being able to collect money. It's like you have to have a good way for people to pay
Yep.
you, and like to be able to collect that money, and then the money goes into your bank account and you're like, woohoo. It's
Yep.
just like make dotting all those I's and crossing those T's are not we're not all meant to be those strategy and tech wizards, but when we become an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, it all of a sudden becomes like we're wearing all the hats, and we don't really have anyone else or know where to go. And so sometimes people end up on Upwork or Fiverr, and I've had people get burned on those places because all of a sudden you're giving your trust or your back end of your systems, which has a lot of sensitive information in there
Yes, it does.
about you, about your business. Like, those are things that you need to be very careful with. So yeah, I mean, that's why when I like to work with people, it's like, okay, like I only want to know what I need to know, and I'm gonna work with you to pull out all of that information. Yeah. Ah,
Yeah,
crickets.
yeah. Well, whenever we're looking at like those different, those different parts and those different steps, it's very much kind of getting lost in the mix, right? Because there's so many different things to learn and to know and to understand about what we're doing, that it's like, at what point can I stop understanding?
Hmm.
It's because it's really it's important to have a good base of knowledge, so you can kind of well, one, so you're not taken advantage of, right? That doesn't mean that you have to be the expert at it. And it's good that, yes, you know how to send out an email by yourself if you need to, but it doesn't mean that you know how to schedule in a 27 part email sequence with every single bit of tagging and segmentation that's necessary, right? And make sure every single link is checked. Like there's those kind of thresholds, and whenever you're already in the middle of an online business and you have your skill, you have your expertise that you came with, and now you're going, oh gosh, okay, but I also have to make sure that I have even the right desktop versus laptop, and then what's the right kind of like software that I'm running on, and then the right mic versus the right camera versus the right lights, right? All that kind of hardware. Then you're going into
Hmm.
the software stuff, and then how do I even use it? And I mean, there's like half the stuff on Canva I don't even know how to do. And I'm like, I don't care. Whatever. It gets done, it gets done. It's figuring out that threshold between feeling like you have to master it versus like it's good enough. Right.
Hmm.
And then at what point do you feel like, I don't want to put out in the world the good enough anymore? I want somebody else who does have that next level or even that master level to come in to do it for me, to make sure that it is, the pristine. It is like it's even past pro and it's into the master level. And they're tying it up in a bow and I don't have to think about it anymore. And they're just kind of, ticking all the dots and taking care of everything for me. And that can really be an evolution as you are making money in your business, right? Because the primary thing is to make sure that there is a way for two-way communication and a way to receive money. It's like, do you
Hmm.
have a way for people to talk to you and for you to make a real connection so that way you can actually deliver what it is that they're paying you for? And then do you have a secure way to accept payments? And
Yeah.
that's the primary thing, right? And then as you become profitable, because you mentioned that earlier, it's like to actually have a profitable business versus a big flashy launchy business that has like all of these massive numbers and the margins are tiny or even negative because they spent so much money on the back end. that, in order to get the big flashy number, that actually they didn't even make payroll that month. And that happens way more than people talk about. So it's making sure that you get that sustainable, profitable business. And then as the business can pay for itself, how do I take myself out of this equation? How do I stop this bottleneck of me? And the easiest thing to do is to start with the pieces that you don't like, right? And then
Mhm.
going from there. Like, I mean, there's a lot of pieces that I don't like, and there's some pieces that just don't get done, and there's some pieces that don't get done well. And, I mean, like, I'm sure you have pieces that you probably have favorite pieces that to do for clients, but within your own business, do you find that there's like pieces that you already outsource versus like you feel like you will one day outsource?
Yeah, I mean, there was a time, even for like, even though I'm a tech person, um, there was times when I would spend too much time on my own tech
Right.
because
Yeah,
it's like, I
exactly.
could do this. Yeah, and I could do it, and I could do it really well. But then I started, I was getting some help with like client work. I was like, you know what? I actually think I need you to also do mine.
Yeah.
Because and so just like realizing, that there's going to be time and space when I actually had a coach tell me that it's like, I think it's time for you to outsource like some of
Mhm.
your own back end, right?
Mhm.
Because if it's affecting your ability to like generate the leads or like do podcast interviews like this, or nurture or deliver services, then something's got to change. Or if you're just spending too much time, like if all of a sudden you know your desired 3-day week has turned into a 5-day week, your desired 4-hour day turned into an 8-hour day, then you're spending more time. And I think you said it earlier in the beginning, kind of like you don't want to regret, your business, or like start, I don't know, hating your business, right?
Yeah.
Like I've even had clients where they were selling programs that, and this is kind of leaning into your area, but that were just not priced to be profitable.
Yep.
And so they were delivering these experiences or coaching, and they actually started regretting it.
Yep.
They're like, I don't want to do it because I feel like it's, I'm cheap or whatever. Like I'm not making enough money to make ends eat, like ends meet. Like why not just go and take a part-time job somewhere and get
Mhm.
paid an hourly rate? I'd probably be better off. And that's where, you really have to think about your business, get some of those foundations in place, like understand the strategies, the vision, the goals, and build your business, your offer around it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And cost buildups is what it's called for pricing. That is a fundamental piece to have in place, and it goes way beyond, well, what is everybody else charging for something? Or how much do I feel like it should be? Or I think I'm going to expand and grow. So now I'm going to charge this much for something. There's an actual math to it. And there's a
Mhm.
way to figure out this is what's called a break even price. And then this is what I can do at this profit margin. And then this is what I can do at this one. And so on and so forth. And it's something to put in place for every single offer that you have. And they're actually one of my favorite things to do. I truly geek out about it. And I do it with all of my clients.
Uh,
Um, they're really fun and enjoyable because it's making sure that all of the base pieces, like all of the base expenses that you have, are covered. And then it's like,
yep.
okay, now that these are, what are the extra pieces? And then you can get into like the nitty gritty, and it's like, if I need this particular software only for this offer, then only this offer needs to pay for it, or only this contractor. There's lots of different ways that we can break it out, but it's down to like a coffee shop. Every single latte that you buy pays for every single piece of running that coffee shop, no matter what like product is bought. So it pays for every single type of milk that they offer. It pays for the electricity. It pays for the lease on the building, the insurance. It pays for every single pastry, the cost of the employees, the owners pay. Like all of these kinds of things are built into it. And when it's spread out, then it's like a little bit and a little bit and a little bit goes into each piece. Right. So it
Mhm.
doesn't feel like so big and so cumbersome and, and so much, right? And so it's like if this one shot of espresso, if the cost of this one shot of espresso plays its part to pay for every single thing that goes into running this place, then imagine what I can do in the profit margin on a triple shot Americano macchiato, whatever kind of crap sugary drink that people drink. I'm a purist. I don't drink all that, but it's those kind of things that it's like that's whenever you start to see a business go from scraping by and I feel like I'm putting so much in, but I'm not getting enough out into, wow, this feels really luxurious. This feels really expansive. This feels like, this is really possible. And it doesn't mean that you're suddenly have a business that's equivalent to a $6 latte, right? Things have
Mhm.
definitely gotten a little out of control when it comes to that, but it's actually because you're paying for the milk, not for the espresso. But that's a whole other topic. But but within your own business, there's a way to do that, and that comes into the actual like finance part of your business and versus the sales part of your business versus the marketing part of your business. And unfortunately, in this online space, so many people are pricing with a marketing hat on because that's the examples that they've seen. And that is not where we're supposed to be pricing.
Mm-mm.
That is like one little opinion piece where it's a like audience fit, market fit matters, but that's not actually where we get our margins. And see, now
Yes.
I'm going off on my own little soapbox here on pricing, and I'll just have to do a whole
Oh,
other
no.
episode on it because it's really important and it makes sense. And I have like a whole breakdown on how to do it, and I'll record it as a workshop for the sake of everybody listening at some point. But I do it for all of my clients stuff, but I can make it a bit more accessible. And because it like once you have that piece, it's like I'm no longer guessing. I'm no longer wondering. It's like if I want to sell a workshop for $37, I'm not going, well, is this a good price? At what point does this sustain my business? Do I have to sell 1,000 of them before I ever see any money back? Am I being really stupid? If I want to
Mhm.
sell a coaching package for 2,500, am I, should I feel guilty? Should I cry? Should I only charge $150 instead? Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do anymore. Right. It's all this kind
Yeah.
of back and forth that people feel. And for like tech service providers, it's like, should I just be like $20 an hour? Should I be $150 an hour? I don't know. Maybe I'll just forget it and I'll only do packages. And if I do packages and then, and instead of that, it's like, let's take out all of that wondering. Let's put it down in black and white. And then we use that masculine container to sustain us while we're having our feels and our excitements and our dreams of what's possible. Right.
Mhm.
And that's how the two balance each other. So we get that feminine energy of creation and we're like, oh, and this can happen. Oh yeah, and this can happen. Oh yeah, and this is gonna be so amazing. And then it's supported by that container that it fits in. And that's how the two balance out, right? That's what yin and yang is. And they come together and it's like, wow, this was really good. It feels really sustainable. I'll stop now.
No, I love that. Like, I think it's so good, and I can geek out on numbers too. So, I mean, and I've gone through like I went to a coaching call once. It was like a VIP day, and I mean to put it in context, I spent $10,000 for a VIP day
Yeah.
with two coaches, and I was like, this is going, this is worth my time and worth my energy and stuff. But it and I really wanted to solve this problem, and I believe they could solve that problem, and they did help me solve that problem in that point of where I was at. And so I go into this $10,000 VIP day, and I go in with like details, and I'm like got numbers and spreadsheets and everything. And the coach, who's like not so detailed, is like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, just so I can definitely get like really, really detailed. And I love like getting into the numbers. I have
Yeah.
spreadsheets that I like kind of pulling out when it's right to do so. So
Yeah.
I like that. And I think it's important too to recognize that, yeah, I could go out and stick an ad up for, let's like, here's a free training on how to build your landing page in a day for $9. And I could spend $50,000 in ad budget, and maybe I'd get $50,000 back in there. What did I make? Nothing. You
Right.
know, so, so it's kind of like that's what I think about sometimes. And I have heard stories of people doing that where they put like six figures in ads to sell like a very low ticket item, and they
Mhm.
get like almost that same amount back, and it's just break even. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know what their goal is, but that's not something that I'm planning to do or risk that I'll take. The other thing that I've seen people do too is once, they're like, "Oh, get this free training on how to do a landing page in a day. Oh, and by the way, now you need software
Mm.
XYZ," and they're selling you this suite of stuff. So now they've like locked you into probably some monthly membership with them where they keep selling you more trainings or they tack things on. And I find that like I don't like that. Like
Yeah.
it rubs me the wrong way. And I've actually been asked because I'm in tech too to be affiliate for
Mhm.
some programs, and I've actually said no because it doesn't align with what I do. And one thing that you'll learn from me if you follow me or you see me on social and stuff is I'm not a big fan of all-in-one platforms. I find them very pricey for sometimes a monthly fee. They might not be, the best at all the things. Maybe they're good at some things, but the others kind of fall flat. So you end up like tacking on additional software anyways. So this particular one that I was being pitched was actually an all-in-one platform, and I actually turned it down. I was like, no, I don't want to pitch this to my audience because it doesn't align with the vision or what I tell my audience. So I'm very careful with that. And if I do, I'm even sometimes careful, like, because I've had some of my audience members do this. If I mention a particular platform, like if I said the name of I really love X platform, even on this podcast, someone's going to go and search it and sign up, and I'm going to be like, oh shoot, like I don't even know if they need it. Like, don't
Right?
sign up for that. Why? And I had someone sign up. I'm like, you don't even need that thing. Like, why did you sign up? Because you said it. And I'm like, yeah, but I said it in this context. So I'm very careful with like what I even say because it can sometimes cause them to take action. And I do, have affiliate links, obviously, for some of the main softwares I use. But if people sign up for the softwares using my affiliate links, usually I give them something back. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
let's jump on a free implementation call, or let me send something that's going to help you like use this software because I see that you've signed up for it. I don't want to leave them hanging,
Right?
and I want to help them decide. And I have helped people decide, like, do I need to delete this? It's like, yes, delete that. Like, don't use it. Oh,
Yeah.
now I'm
And
on my
no, no.
soapbox.
Well, and you brought up 2 points. So I'm gonna address the first one, and then we can go into the affiliate part because I have strong feels that people who listen have heard me say this too. But the first thing that you mentioned was on that ad part. And like spending six figures or really any amount and like breaking even, right? And this can go into deciding a long game strategy. So that can actually be okay. It can actually even be okay to take a loss on it depending on what it is you actually want to get out of it, right? So in marketing it's called a loss leader. So it's like, what is it that you are undervaluing in order to get more people aware of your brand as a whole or aware of other offers that you have, right? And that's why a lot of these offers are selling for $7, $9, 17, etc. They're typically, hopefully they're worth more than that anyway in order to like wow and be like a big impression on people. But then what else is coming? Like what else are other people buying? So,
Mm.
in the example that you gave, maybe I'll just say 50,000 instead of like six figures, but like maybe they're spending 50,000 on ads, which is a huge ad budget anyway for a lot of people in their first probably 3 to 5 years. After probably year 4 plus, unless they have like a larger coaching or digital product business, then they're going to be running it probably in like the 5,000 range. So at that point, it's like I'm putting this out there in order to get the right fit people, right? So their ads are already more expensive because they're not going like, spaghetti on the walls, kind of anybody, but they actually want a right fit audience. So they're more expensive ads. And then it's like I'm not so much concerned with how many people are actually buying this part. I'm wanting to actually get the back end offer in there, in front of them. I'm wanting to get them like, in my email container. So that way, whenever I do my bigger launch, they're actually around, right? So whenever you are looking at ad conversion costs, and really, I mean, I would say any launch, like any live event, it's not just the immediate money that you get back. It's also what is the lifetime value of those people who came from there. So even if
Mm,
they didn't buy the thing at that point, did they buy something from you within the next 6 months? So you can put like a
yes.
date cap on it. But did they buy something in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, right? Within some sort of round like time frame of like ad to ad. So for everybody listening, like I want to make sure that you are holistically looking at your launches, because in no way will everybody buy everything that you ever put in front of them. But it doesn't mean that they're not referring you out. It doesn't mean that they're not remembering you for when for the next time that they're ready. And for like maybe they don't really care about your $9 thing, but they're actually really excited about the coaching offer that you have going on. Those kind of pieces go on. So that's why it's really important to know, where are people coming from? How long are they staying with you? What's happening with them? What is that long-term piece on there? So
Yes.
there's that part of it. Now onto the affiliate part of it. I was like, because you said that part, and I was like, yes, and I love that point. And then on this other point, yeah, because like I use an all-in-one, and this is something that I talk about a lot, because I didn't start with that. I started with WordPress because so I started with WordPress, which I got because of who I got my domain from. And really what I learned, not being like a tech person, like I'm really good at coding, I just don't care to do it. Does that make sense? Yeah,
Hmm.
it's yeah. So it's one of those things where it's like I can do it, I just don't care to. So what I learned with WordPress, and again, just my personal impression, if you don't have the right theme, it's almost pointless. Like I wasn't aware of Squarespace or Wix or any of those other kinds of things that like almost have those kind of pre-laid on for you. So I was hanging out in the WordPress space, and everybody was talking about Divi, 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 Divi. And it was like the only one to have. And I was like, I don't want Divi, because Divi's like has like a subscription to it. Like you buy it and then you buy it again and then you buy it again. I'm like, I don't want to freaking buy this all the time. I'm like, there's a thousands and thousands of options out here. There has to be something else that's good. I searched and for months, YouTube, Google, like at Reddit, everything. I could not find a good, like a real resource to help me figure out what a good theme was. And so I kept trying and I would try like the free version to see if I liked it enough before I bought them. And to the point where I just got so tired of it. And then I had ConvertKit, still big fan. They can take you a long way with them, but I had that one. And then I had a different platform for something else, and a different platform for something else. And for my personality, logging into 5 things to get one thing done did not work. And that's why I'm bringing this up, because it's like, you have to understand, like, how do you want to work, and what is your level of sacrifice for that, right? I would rather log into one place to see the vast majority of things, even if that means I'm giving up certain features or capabilities, because like, as Lacey was saying, all-in-one softwares, they're only going to have certain features at certain levels at different times. That is their project roadmap, is what it's called in the tech world. So they will focus on like the course creation side at one point, and then whenever it gets to a certain area, they'll move on to like an email side, and then when that gets to a certain area, they'll move on to optimizing a checkout, or optimizing a community space, or something else. And that's all based on like a roadmap, which they typically make public, so you can see what those are in all these all-in-one spaces, and you can see what they're prioritizing at different points to see if it lines up with what is important to you. So with where they're currently at, are you happy with it? And if not, then you can look at their roadmap to see what's coming in the future. Yeah. So for me, I was like the annoyance with my curmudgeon, grumpy self of having to log into all of these different places, like it just didn't match. And so I was like, I would rather have an all-in-one place where it works okay enough for me rather than going to the other ones. But I went into it eyes wide open versus thinking everything was perfect and it was going to be in there. Like I had that knowledge level. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm all for like, figuring out like what do you have and is it working for
Yeah.
you? Most times when people come to me, it's because stuff isn't really working for them and they're
Exactly.
like, there's gotta be like a better way to do this. Or the price isn't working for them,
Yes.
or they're not using features that, they're paying for and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Cause
definitely
I,
something to think about.
Yes, yeah, because I hate it when people buy stuff because someone told them to and that was it.
Yes.
Like just for the sake of a recommendation, that's not okay. And there's a balance there. Like buyer responsibility exists. Educate yourself to the best way possible and try things out versus like, just going in for the hype. But also there's a big seller responsibility, like Lacey is saying, she doesn't affiliate for things if it's like, no, this doesn't match. Well, like
Mhm.
I affiliate for the all-in-one that I go for, but I have a thing on here that says this is for you if if you're actually going to sell these things, if you're actually going to use these features, if you understand that these things are here and these things aren't here. And
Yeah.
it's like if you're not sure, then, check this resource, talk to this thing, feel free to DM me, like all this kind of stuff because I mean, as much as affiliate commission is great for anybody, it's not for the sake of like somebody having a bad sense of who you are as a person, right? It's
Yeah.
not worth sacrificing integrity. It's not worth like thinking about somebody spending sometimes thousands by like having a huge tech stack that has nothing to do with what they're actually trying to do.
Yep. And it's just because somebody was selling the affiliate link basically to
Yes,
them and telling them that they needed this and or how it's changed their business.
right.
And so yeah, definitely need to be aware and also be aware that like sometimes there's, systems that like I could go out if I want it and white label a system and say this is Lacey's tech stack or this is Lacey's all-in-one platform. And I could put it out there and I could do that, within a couple days and start selling it. Now, with that system, like there might be uh, things that you need to think about when you're buying a system like that, or if someone's promoting something you've never heard of, it's probably because it's new. It
Mhm.
might not have solid customer service. It might
Yeah.
not have, back end support. So most of the tech that I end up recommending too is tech that can, exist in your tech stack and it's user friendly. I feel like it's, something that people can use and then it's backed by true customer support and service and, tutorials, like all of those good things that's included, with it. So I don't like to recommend tech that I feel like people are going to get lost in or they're not going to have help once, if I've set it up for them, then I usually do my own like Loom videos and to
Mhm.
give them a tutorial of their own tech, or maybe I'm on retainer like making updates for them. But yeah, if it's something I recommend it, like I want to make sure they're set up for success and that the minute that I leave, it's not like, oh no, everything broke.
Right?
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah, because
I'm not in the business of like keeping myself on retainer for you. Like I kind of want to like, see them like fly and do their thing.
and not need you, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, work myself out of a job.
yeah, yeah, it's like there's the beauty in that. Yeah, because it's I mean, it can seem kind of fun to be a first mover, which is what that's called whenever like you're the first one to try something. It's called being a first mover. Like those people who stood in line for the very first iPhone back in the day. Of and all of us that hang out on AppSumo. I don't hang out on AppSumo, but I do buy things on there. But there is, if you are looking for a software that is going to be a crucial part of your business, right? And your business is not blogging about the latest software. you know, Again, back to like, what are you actually producing and who is your audience, right? If you're not selling the opinion on software, then you don't need to be buying the latest, greatest all the time that hasn't been tested, that doesn't necessarily, you don't know whether or not it has a good customer service and good backups and all of that kind of stuff, right? So there is a safety and a goodness there to go with one that has been tested a lot longer. And you have a guide for
Mhm.
people that helps them with that, don't you?
Yeah, I do. So I have a tech guide. I say it's for coaches, but really it's for coaches, consultants, service providers who are basically selling, products or programs, offers online. So it's yeah, it's my tech guide for coaches, and you can get it at laceycribb.com/tech guide. I'm sure you'll
Well,
drop the link
yeah,
in
I
the
was like,
notes.
we'll link
Yeah.
in the notes. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they can look at that. I like to stay up on tech as well. Once you sign up for it, you'll get directed to a page on my website, and I keep it updated. It's not a PDF. I like doing because
Nice.
it's ever changing, right? The tech changes, so I go in and update it regularly. It's just been updated recently. I probably have one more update to do to it now because I actually did buy an app from AppSumo and I like it.
See?
And I'm going to end up saving myself $250 a year and for every year going forward by getting this app. So again, that's something that you need to be aware of, and tech can cost money, and you can save money and still have your systems doing all the things for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are some fun things on there. And then there's even like I'll talk to people who also like AppSumo stuff and they'll be like, I actually accidentally bought the like I bought a new one, but I realized it does the same thing as one that I bought before. So if anybody finds themselves or they're like, what is this? And you're new to it, AppSumo does a fantastic job marketing the stuff on there. They're really, really good hype people. They're a marketplace for up and coming tech, and they basically bring it directly to the people. So these are new things, and you are getting a lifetime discount. Like you're getting a deal, you're getting in on things because you are testing it, right? So they being the tech people make an agreement with any, like they're called sumo links, but with AppSumo on behalf of us buyers to like lock in, agreements, customer service, etc. But it doesn't mean that it's going to stay around forever, right? It doesn't mean that it's something that, will exist for years and years and years, forever and ever. So, always remember that too. That, yes, you're getting in on something cool if it's something that you really like. It's really neat. The last one that I got was an AI assistant model that I've really enjoyed, but it doesn't mean that it is going to be around, as long as like I know someone that I work with. She bought one, like a podcast software, and they're closing their doors, and they've been around for like 5 or 6 years, and they're now sending out emails to everybody saying, hey, this just isn't sustainable, we're having to shut down. So
Yeah.
that's my kind of like buyer beware. And AppSumo does a great job hyping up all of the ones that they want to showcase. But yes, you will find duplicate things that can do the same, like multiple things that can do the same thing. So you really want to compare, and then also know that yes, you're getting a good deal, but it comes at that cost of being a first mover and hanging out in there. So, like having a look at Lacey's guide, having a look at things, checking Reddit, checking YouTube, being an informed buyer really is a great thing to do. And when you're not sure, asking around, right?
Hmm. Yeah, asking is like, yeah, I love asking. I mean, we're in a group together where we're all asking questions all the time and being able to like leverage from other people, but then being able to decide how you want to use that information is
Yeah.
where the power comes from. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that about AppSumo too, so that everyone understands, where that is coming from. That's super helpful.
Yeah, it's fun. So if anybody is, hanging out in this launch world and hanging out in this tech world, and they're trying to figure out, what do I want to do next? Where should I go from here? What is your favorite advice to give people?
I would say, start with the end in mind. We want to know what the goal is. and then kind of, work backwards from there. That's essentially where I start, is like, okay, what is your goal here?
Yeah.
And once we figure out what your goal is, like, then we can kind of work backwards and figure out what steps we need to take to make it happen.
Yeah. 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 Cause there is a lot of steps, and there's no shame. There's nothing wrong with feeling that overwhelm and feeling like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do to get this out here. Even when you've done it 15 times, even when you're in year 5 and you're like, here we go again. It's an old hat. I've got some great SOPs going, but whew, here we go again. There's still nothing wrong with feeling that. And that's when it's looking at, do I need to outsource things? Do I need to look at my tech stack? Do I need to, maybe decide to do it a different way next time? What am I changing up? What am I keeping the same? Is it a case of making sure that you're putting in some self-care the week before you go into live events as well as the week after, right? Because you really need that expansion space, and any of the stakeholders that live around you and that are around, like in your team as well as in your personal life, them knowing it's like you need that time, like you have to have that space because you are feeling the weight of the world around you during a launch, and you don't need to apologize for it. You just need to have communication and make sure that you're feeling open and that you have that kind of like support around you that you need, and we're here for you. you know we
Hmm.
got you. We understand. We've been through it many, 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 many times, ourselves individually as well as with clients. I still take like on demand. Like I'll have people that will ask for like Voxer weeks just during launches, for coaching. They're like, I just need you in my pocket. It's like I still do that because it never changes. It doesn't matter how many times you do it. You still need that support. So whether this is your first time or your thousandth time, we've got you. And we are here for you. And until next time, enjoy. Thank you for joining me here on Digital Business Your Way. Be sure to check out the show notes for all the links mentioned today. And while you're there, I'd love for you to rate and review the show. And if you have a topic or question you want me to answer, I want to hear it. Head to tracypatterson.com/AMA and ask me anything about business. If I don't know it, I'll bring it up with one of my guests. And until next week, be well and have some fun.